Okay, I wanted to react to this video and put pieces of this on TikTok. So here we go.
Know this? Listen, I'm not done. I'm not done. Men need to hear this. Most of y'all, listen, what camera am I looking? Most of y'all have small, most of y'all have small.
Yo, imagine a day that a man can scream from the mountain.
I don't understand why people always act like small penises or accusations of people having small penises is a bad thing. I mean, that's a good thing. Abnormal is actually being big. The majority of men are not big, and that's a good thing because most women aren't as big as a hallway and we're not used up and loose. So, therefore, we, don't really need someone who's really big like that. Some people act like there's so much pleasure with someone who's big. I swear, big. I'll just say this. I've had experiences with men who were over 6 inches, like 6.5 inches, and there was no pleasure in that, okay? When someone's girth is like a little above average, for me, it's not any pleasure. It's just a situation where you just want him to get it over with so then you can stop feeling so completely uncomfortable with the situation, I don't know. To me, some people have smaller vaginas, and so because we're smaller, that's not really desirable. And from what I've heard, I mean, like, if you're gonna shame people, I mean, like, that's not really a smart idea. This size thing is never a smart idea, because men will shame you, too, for having a big vagina, because they'll say that you're loose and there's no pleasure in being with you either. So I don't understand why people do this size shaming. Just be glad with your size. Go find one that fits, okay? Continue.
That I don't want no sloppy roast beef, twisted labia minoras and vajayjays. Imagine that.
So really? You're gonna attack dark-skinned women when a light-skinned woman attacks you for having a small penis? This is just weird. You literally talked about roast beef. Roast beef is an attack to dark-skinned black women for, how some people think that they look down there or whatever. But you are attacking women who didn't even say anything about small penises. Just because you're mad because a light-skinned woman doesn't want your small penis? Like, come on now.
Guys, you're looking at the thumbnail, y'all looking at the title of the video, y'all already know what time it is. It is time to get active. Superhead. She has been connected to and wrote a book about several rappers, basketball players like sports athletes, actors, and the like. Turns out she actually has a
Yeah, I've heard about this lady, and I don't even know what she does for a living. To be completely honest, I saw this situation. I saw her several times, basically being hookups to random people and things of that nature. But yeah, it kind of makes sense because I think maybe she gets around. But yeah, continue.
Podcast. So immediately, and finding out that she has a podcast, I said to myself, "Oh, there's undoubtedly a bunch of bullshit that she's saying," and I was right. Without further ado,
Let's get into slut shaming because I can't with you today.
Yeah, right.
It's the stigmatization of a woman. Let me stop it. Is stigmatizing a woman for engaging in behavior judged to be as promiscuous or sexually provocative?
Okay.
And I left the part where it says a woman because listen, if you look up in the dictionary any of these words, slut, whore, tramp, strumpet, every definition in the dictionary starts with a woman who.
Haven't heard that
one. A woman.
Mm.
It very rarely says a person or a man or.
What I just want to know is why the anger, okay? This is the thing. With promiscuity, I have no issue with it. I don't. To me, I see promiscuity the same in a man as a woman. I mean, people who don't are stupid, in my opinion. But at the end of the day, if you are a promiscuous person, I don't care if you are a woman or a man, and you are cranky, and you are crying and all riled up because there are names for you in a dictionary about your sexual behavior. You know, if you are upset because there's tramp, slut, and all the other words that they call people who are promiscuous and things of that nature, and you are emotional about it, then it's almost like, to me, from my perspective, it seems like you're not happy with what you do, you know? And it's kind of like, you know, if you're not happy with what you do, then you shouldn't be doing it. You know, that's how I see it. It's like, it's nobody else's fault that you are angry at what you did. You said yes, right? You weren't raped. So this was your choice to do what you do in your life and sleep around with whoever you want to sleep with. But at the same time, you're mad because people are shaming you. No one can shame you but yourself. But you obviously feel the shame because you are all emotional and angry about it. So it's like, to me, these type of people just weren't meant to be basically promiscuous, but they live the promiscuous life, and that's what's so painful.
A woman who. These are terms that are strictly for women. You guys don't have these. They're not made for you.
There's the term man whore. And, you know, I have to understand this. When men are slut-shamed, many of the time, many men do not mind. Okay? So, like I said, if you're a man or a woman and you do not mind and you do not care about those terms, then it's not going to affect you. And it's obviously, you know, what's the big deal on it? If you don't care, then it's okay. You care clearly because you're talking about it.
Don't do that.
I mean,
Don't do that.
we get called F-boy.
Facts.
You guys don't have
Nice logic.
the whole world judging and telling you what to do with your body. We literally have the government telling us what to do with our bodies. The government.
Yeah.
Somebody somewhere right now is changing a law that tells us what we need to do with our bodies, when and how we can get birth control, when and how we should even be able to get abortions or even just care.
And somehow, killing a child is having to do with your body. Okay, that doesn't make any sense. This is what doesn't make sense to me. Okay, how do you guys go about saying that it's somehow about your body getting an abortion, right? But when you are raped and you get pregnant, you start talking about, oh, it's a rapist and stuff. So which is it? Is it your body or is it the other man's body in you? You guys never make any scientific sense. Because if we look at the DNA, it's not your body and it's not his body. It is that child's body. End of story. Unborn child's body. Sure, yes, but it is not your body. Please come up with a better argument, but I have yet to see one good argument for abortion. You guys fail over and over again, and all you can do is lie and talk about things that aren't true, and then expect people to pretend that that's not even really, you know, that that's actually a fact. When science proves it every day that you're actually wrong, and you're actually just spouting basically lies about easily proven scientific facts. Continue.
Care. Even just care.
And it's easy to complain about the government and sexual regulation when it's not you that's funding the U.S. healthcare costs, when it's not you that is funding the men that were raised in single mother homes that are now in the prison systems or are being destructive.
What the heck are you even talking about? What do men, you blaming single motherhood on you committing crime is lack of responsibility. And it's the same thing as what she's saying. She doesn't want to take care of her own responsibility. She lied down in a bed, opened her legs, was unprotected, then got pregnant, wants to abort her baby, right? Not taking responsibility. Exactly. But you, on the other hand, are you taking responsibility when you commit crimes and you hurt people, and then you go about saying that you need to basically, you need to have people feel sorry for you or feel some kind of sympathy for you because you were raised by a single mom and you decided to hurt somebody. You decided to break the law. You decided to put yourself in prison because nobody goes to prison without making the decision to go there. That's why I don't get about you people who want to make excuses for criminals. Because people in prison always put themselves there. They always put themselves there. They made the decision because they knew what was against the law. They knew it was against the law. They knew it wasn't legal. That's why they tried to get away with it. They literally put themselves in those positions. They put themselves in prison. They wanted to be in prison. And this is what life has given them because this is what they asked for. Continue.
In their communities.
And then also, when and how we should have sex and not have sex. The problem with slut shaming is this. Slut shaming is born in the insecurities of men. And your insecurities are born in your penises and your wallet size.
It's very easy to say that slut shaming is...
I don't know about that. I feel like yes, men are very insecure about their money and their penis sizes. And this is why it's always been annoying to me because it's always like, I want the man. Now, the money, I mean, like, he can have a lot of money. That's fine. And it's not like I'm looking for a man who doesn't have money or anything. But I don't care if he has money or not. As long as you're not a bum or anything crazy like that, More of the thing that I care about is what are you doing in your life? Like, are you just a crackhead on the street? Well, if you're a crackhead on the street, if you make millions of dollars, if you make hundreds of thousands of dollars, if you make tens of thousands of dollars, or if you make $10 a year, it doesn't matter. You're a drug addict. You get what I'm saying? So it's different things like that, like different behaviors that I'm not going to appreciate no matter what kind of money you make. But generally, like, I don't care if a man makes 20, 30, 40,000 a year. I don't. 20,000 is actually kind of low. I guess 30, 40, 50,000 a year. I wouldn't care. Like, money isn't my issue. If someone made 20,000 and I really like them, and I was willing to settle down with them, then heck yeah, I would do it. I don't see the issue here, really. To me, I'm like, well, money is temporary. He could get more eventually anyway. And I mean, I just don't see money as the issue for me. That's just not my concern, really. But on the whole size issue, that's an issue that I've always experienced. And it's always been annoying for me because it's like I like men who are smaller. I like men who are like 5 inches, actually. And more on the narrow side. Not thick. Like, obviously, I don't like thick. And I don't really like average, really. I prefer narrow, basically. I would say like below 4 inches in girth, basically. 4 to 5 inches I can do, and I can probably enjoy 4 inches when I'm ovulating, but most of the time I just find it's more a burden than anything, especially if it's closer to 5 inches. Yeah, but for me, it's annoying to me with small men that they're so insecure. They don't even understand certain things. Like, for me, with smaller men, I can have really, really wild enjoyment with smaller men, basically. While bigger men, I can't have any enjoyment. I can't even have sex with them. Men who are above average, it's just a burden more than anything. They can't really do much for me. So I specifically am literally looking for a man who's small. But the thing is, men who are small have a lot of insecurities with being small, and that's where the roadblocks come for me with men who are small, is that, they often seem like they are very uncomfortable with the fact that they're so small. But yeah, so I do agree with what she's saying. Yes, they do have an insecurity with money and with size. Both, honestly, because I've dealt with men who were both of those things, and they always act like people don't want them because of those things. It's like, why do you reject yourself before you could give someone a chance to accept you? But continue.
Off of a insecurity when the reality of sexually transmitted disease can mean a lifelong illness. Let me give you guys some facts. There's over 20 million new STD infections every year. Almost 50% of them are among people between the ages of 15 to 24, costing the U.S. healthcare system $16 billion annually. The female anatomy is not set up in a way to have an incredible amount of sex partners. One of the first things that I think about is
That is not true at all. I mean, that's weird. Why would you think that, honestly? Because think of it this way. If you can only be with a couple people, what is the difference with being with a couple people and a lot of people? Now, hear me out. You're saying that the female anatomy isn't made to have a lot of sex partners. Well, you could have sex with only 1 or 2 people and have more sex than someone who's had sex with 100 people. It matters how many times you had sex with those 2 people. So, to me, it's like, what do you mean we can't stand to have sex as often as someone else? Are you trying to say? That's not true at all. I think, honestly, though, if you're talking about diseases and the chances of disease, I don't get why there would be any difference with men and women. And this is a thing that men are actually very insecure about when it comes to women who are not very promiscuous, because we don't really want them. We don't want a man who is very promiscuous, because why would we want someone who, like he's saying, is diseased? You get what I'm saying? And then you will see that insecurity and that anger. And men, honestly, have more anger for their promiscuity, honestly, than women do. Because they feel like when a woman is unattainable, and that woman is not, it doesn't want him, because basically all he is ever with is very promiscuous women who run the risk of having diseases, then he feels dirty, and he feels less than, he feels inferior. And this brings out anger and aggression. See, you don't see this with women who are promiscuous. You don't see aggression, really. You find that they feel frustration, it seems, and, a sense of worthlessness or whatever. But it's not the same as men. Men, it's scary, honestly. Men who are promiscuous are honestly scary because of that aspect of how some of them act, and this goes back to, if you are not happy with being promiscuous and all that comes with it, then you shouldn't be doing it, male or female. Continue.
Equalization of y'all pH, the yeast infections, the bacterial infections that guys don't have to worry about.
Because honestly,
but you guys still have all the other diseases. And those diseases are deadly. I mean, you could be carrying HIV, you could be carrying herpes, you could be carrying gonorrhea, you could be carrying chlamydia. There's so many other things out there. And you know how that affects people's fertility and the woman's health if they're with a man who's promiscuous? See, this is what I mean. You guys don't want to address the other side of it. You want to disparage the woman you're with, but in reality, I think promiscuous men are made for promiscuous women, but they feel so bad about that. They kind of want to act like it's not true, like it's okay because they're a man. But many women who aren't promiscuous, why would... I don't understand this. If I'm not promiscuous, if I have a low body count, why would I want to mess that all up with a man who's promiscuous? I mean, heck, at least the promiscuous woman had all her fun, right? I didn't even get to have any fun. He had the fun with the other women, and then he gave me a disease. Why would I want to do that? It would make more sense to just skip the guy who's sleeping around. But yeah, continue.
I'm gonna be super frank here. I never heard a big dick man with not just big dick energy, not just BDE, but a man who's well endowed. I've never seen a well endowed man call a woman a whore.
And what you fail to incorporate within your talking...
With that whole situation, honestly, bigger men, many of the time they have a harder time with women who are, say, for example, who have a body count of 0. I know this personally because when I was a virgin, it was really, I wouldn't be with anyone who was like that. I wouldn't consider it or anything of that nature. But, there were plenty of guys who were like 9 inches or above who would, want to be with me, but I wouldn't be with them because, that wouldn't work physically. And, a lot of, virgins don't want it to be that bad where you're just trying to get with someone who's 9 inches. Baby steps, I mean, even if you are as big as a hallway, I mean, shouldn't you, don't you have some kind of thing where you don't want to be with someone that big? I think, for them, even, that it's not all that good of an idea for them. But hey, yeah, that's what I mean. Of course, they would like someone who's more experienced because of that. But they're not really the majority of men. So, it is what it is. Continue.
Points is that a young woman that leads a promiscuous lifestyle is more likely to end up pregnant by a man who she's not sure who the father is, therefore more likely to commit paternity fraud in that situation, thereby robbing that young person from their biological father. This is the reality.
But a man is more likely to impregnate a woman when he's promiscuous and not know... And this is even worse of a situation. Not know his kid, not know the woman, not know where his kid is. Just leave a really bad situation because he didn't even know who he was sleeping with. So, this could go bad both ways. I would say on the male side of it, I would say that's actually worse because think of it from the perspective of a woman being with a man. If he's a baby daddy, basically, but you don't know it and then you find out, that's a nightmare. Especially when you're trying to avoid men who have children and who are baby daddies, basically. Especially when you're not one yourself. Continue.
You will just roll your eyes at as if introducing a word such as slut shaming and its negative connotations really just doesn't mean having boundaries and or frameworks to lead a good and or conducive life.
It's always the man who can't handle a sex.
But wouldn't you say, I don't get it, how you think this applies to women but not men? Think of it this way. If a man is promiscuous, why is it that beneficial for him to be promiscuous in a monogamous relationship? Why would that be beneficial? It would actually be quite against that because he's more likely to cheat and make the relationship very dysfunctional. So, that type of behavior, I guess you could say, for settling down in monogamy would be bad on both sides. Continue, though.
Sexually advanced woman in the bedroom.
Okay. We're going to call it sexually advanced now. Yo, words matter.
I don't even get it. Why are you saying sexually advanced when women, whether they're with one man or 100 men, can definitely be sexually advanced with that one person, or with 10 people, or with 20, or with 100? It's not really dependent on how many people you're with. It's a matter of, I think, more experience with having sex than actually how many you have sex with. I would say, especially since you're talking about promiscuity, it's almost like you're acting like people who are promiscuous have more sex than those who have sex with one or two people, which is not true. People can have sex just as much as someone who's promiscuous. It's just a matter of making better choices to, not better choices, I wouldn't say, choices to be limited. Now, I'll say, I don't think that there's really a difference between one person or 100 people or 0 people, for that matter. I never have. I've always seen it like the body count doesn't matter to me. My body count never mattered to me. My thing is, enjoyment. If you like what you're doing, if you're happy with what you're doing, all that is what matters, basically. Not really about my number, really. And I say this as a person with a number of 4, so I mean, like, I don't have a big number. But my thing is, it's just that I kind of see it as though, like, people, I think, have it where they think that they come up with these assumptions, I think, of people when they have a lot of sex partners, as opposed to having 1, 2, or 3, sex partners. To me, it's just like, it's different. It's different views of it, basically. And they assume one is less experienced in sex and less open-minded. But the way I see it is, behavior with one person or with 100 people is all about your mindset. If you're open, then you're open-minded, and then therefore you experience a lot of different things sexually. If you're not, you're not. You could have sex with 100 people and still have very simple, inexperienced sex. You could just have sex missionary each and every time. I don't know. But yeah, continue.
And she called it sexually advanced. I like strumpet better. Let's move on.
Lori Harvey kissed a bunch of frogs. And it's not her fault that none of them were good.
I don't understand why we assume Lori Harvey has had sex with all these people. I mean, just because you've dated someone doesn't mean you've had sex with them. So I don't understand why anyone would assume that she slept around. Continue.
Enough. That's their fault.
Wow. Okay.
If you were a big enough man in more ways than one, you might have been able to keep her. But you weren't good enough. You weren't big enough. You weren't man enough. You weren't something enough for her based on her standards, most likely.
Wow.
And
I think that's just a psychological game. She basically is saying she doesn't feel enough, and therefore she needs to take down other men, saying that they weren't big enough or they weren't this enough. Things of that nature. But yeah, I think that's more a tactic. Continue.
she moved on. And we can't stigmatize women moving on. Y'all want us to settle for less so bad.
Let's go to Hollywood real quick and let's take a look at Kim K and Kanye. Everyone says that slut shaming and body counts don't matter, but y'all see right now what Kanye's being put through. He ain't 100% innocent with it, but look at all of the bullshit that he's currently going through. Can it be?
I don't see anything that's going on with Kanye as a thing that has to do with anything that... I don't think Kim is doing anything wrong to Kanye. What do you mean? To me, I think Kanye's mentally ill. And I feel sorry for Kim that she chose such a man to be with, because he seems really messed up. I mean, I feel sorry for her own kids for simply their genes, because they gotta have his genes. Most likely they're gonna end up messed up mentally just like him too. But yeah, continue.
Taking that her prior decisions in life would have led you to understand where the relationship would have concluded in the future? I say yes.
And when a woman doesn't settle for less and she knows when to zip and zap and dip and dive, you're like, oh, she's a slut because you're not good enough for her. Now she belongs to the streets. And it's always the men with 17 kids talking about you belong to the streets. Bro.
To me, I think that, why do you have to sleep with all those men, though, if they weren't good enough, you know? I don't know. I mean, like, to me, I guess I have a different view on it, because, to me, a lot of men aren't appealing to me in a sexual way, so I wouldn't if I was zipping and zapping, I wouldn't go with men who were just, like, not my type just to do it. Because, I mean, like, I'm not attracted to most men. You get what I'm saying? So, many men, it's just like, and then I understand you're saying that you go from one to another. I guess I would, in some regard, do that, but not in the sense of, like, I know you're not really of any interest. I'm just going to mess with you for now until I find someone else. I might do that if there's a point in doing it. But to me, I mean, like, what you're saying about zipping and zapping, like, I don't know, it just seems like, I feel like, why were you messing with him if he wasn't worth anything in the first place? Continue.
Oh, you are the streets. You are the dirty, nasty, rat-infested. You're a rat carrying a pizza on a subway in New York, nigga. You are the streets.
When women like this speak about men, they're often just speaking about the athletes, the entertainers,
I just don't really get, though, why do you care what a single dad has to say? That's what I don't get. Like, to me, I'm like, okay, you think that he's not worth it, but why do you care what he has to say? Why do you care if he's calling someone a slut? I mean, obviously, if he is the one, with who's a baby daddy and all that, I mean, it seems like he might be more of what he's actually describing. The only reason you're having an issue with it, I think, is because you feel there's some truth. Or you desire that person to speak well of you. And I don't get why. If he's not the target, what's there to matter? If you're only after a man who has a big penis, and you're saying that they don't even say that people are sluts, or they slut shame you, then why do you care what the other men have to say? They're not the target.
drug dealers, much more dudes that are much more fast money making, but they often don't speak about or think about the average man who generally wants relationship and children.
But because you got enough for her, and then she...
Well, that's probably because she wants a man who is a drug dealer or an athlete. You can see with the whole athlete part of it, I think major part of the people she's dated have to do with people who are athletes. So I guess maybe she's talking about the men she's dealing with.
Ends up with Michael B. Jordan.
That's a good one.
Who is a beautiful man inside and out, I'm sure. And obviously he can hold her attention. This is what I always say. It's not the first. Remember when Ray J was like, I hit it first. Like, yeah. It ain't cute to be the first. That's not the cute one. It's the last. Who's good enough to be the last? The first is easy. I'm experimenting, bro. Of course you were.
I agree with that. I definitely agree with that. To me, I never saw, like I said, I've never seen having a body count of 0 or a body count of 1 any different than having a body count of 100? To me, they're all the same to me. More so, the only thing is the health risk, and, being smart about how you go about this. But I do definitely think that the first is not really that special, and I don't really get why people act like it is. I mean, like, for people who save themselves for marriage, yes, it is someone special because that was the situation that you put yourself in. But if it's not one of those type of situations where you were just really literally the first because somebody had to be the first, well, then somebody had to be the first. That's all it is. I would agree, someone who is worth settling for and settling down for, and not tasting the rainbow, basically. Someone who has shown that they're better than the other men that you've been with, and that this is, what you want, that is someone special, not someone who is just the first because somebody had to be the first. I mean, you can't skip to 2 without getting to the first. You have to get to the second and the third. To get to the second and the third, you have to have the first. So, yeah, I do agree with that. Continue.
First, I don't know what I'm doing. You don't know, it's fine. But if I'm an experienced woman who has done my sexual due diligence, who has dated and kissed all the frogs, and then you are the prince and you get to be the last one, you're the one who lets me see that I don't want any of that, and I'm going to stay right here.
And that's what's dangerous about this narrative, is that average women will listen to bullshit like this and then go live a free-spirited life. And then when they're tired of the assholes, they're going to ask themselves, where did all the good guys go? Saying that you need...
Who entertained assholes, though? That's what I don't get. Like, you guys assume people entertained some assholes just because they were trying to sift through men. I think you just are upset that people won't just go with the first guy that lays eyes on them, because it makes it harder because you have to compete. And that's the thing. A lot of you men really, really, really do not like to compete, and you guys get more aggressive and angry about the competition because you feel you will lose. And so that's why you get upset. See, when women come across something challenging, they don't get angry and aggressive like this as much. As a collective, I'm saying. You guys get angry and aggressive as a collective because you feel it's unattainable. And anything that's unattainable makes you angry.
Go through many men to understand the things that you truly want. It's like saying a person needs to shoot up hard drugs, commit felonies, become a dealer, all to really understand what it is that they want to do in life. Marry the slut.
So it's so wrong. This is what I never understood too. So it's so wrong to have sex with you, right? It's so wrong to have sex with men, but then you want women to have sex with you. You guys never make any sense here. You equate having sex with men to having done hard drugs and commit crimes and all this stuff with having sex with a man. You guys are the main ones thinking that it's so terrible to have sex with you. And men like this, it's always hard for me because it's like, men who think like this, it's like, how do you expect to ever get laid with that type of mentality? I'm just asking, because I mean, like, many of the time if people are giving off that energy that it's wrong to have sex with them, then people are going to repel you because they're going to be like, well, if it's wrong, then we just leave you alone. Apparently, you think it's so wrong, it's a crime, basically. Yeah, I bet you think of it almost like pedophilia. I mean, that's how you're equating it. You're equating it to like some kind of crime. Somebody having sex with a man or having sex with multiple men is equated to some kind of crime, And you're the main ones who want women to have sex with you. You guys make no sense.
Marry the slut.
That's a bar.
Because you're going to be having awesome sex at home all the time. You're going to get every night. You're going to get head every day. You'll be teabagging. You'll be on the chandelier. You'll be in the car, on the beach. You'll be, all kinds of shit's going to go down. There'll be friends coming. You don't know whatever kind of freak you need. Marry that person.
Listen, sex is important.
I don't get this at all because it's like, well, what do you mean only a slut would do that? Only someone who is promiscuous would do that. I don't get that. Like, people will do it and people will not do it. So a woman who's very promiscuous won't do it, and a woman who's promiscuous, will do it. It's dependent on the individual. There's plenty of things you said I don't even understand. Anal and oral is odd? Why would that be odd? I don't get that. And other things you're talking about. I mean, like, plenty of stuff that I've done, but I know plenty of people who wouldn't do it who had a body count of 40. And I have a body count of 4. So why are you saying that some women who have low body counts won't do all this stuff simply because we have a lower body count and decided to only have sex with a couple people rather than, 40 people or 400 people or whatever amount, So, continue.
But unless you're a porn star, sex is not what's going to put bread and butter on the table. This is very low value.
And that is true. I want to also point that out. Emotionally, I think, like, when you're settling down with someone, it shouldn't be because you have great sex. I mean, great sex means that you can have more sex. You should have sex maybe every other lunch break, or every other day, or every twice a day, or 4 times a day, or however much time you need to have sex. But, I mean, would that really mean that you need to settle down with someone because you enjoy sex with them? I don't get that. To me, I mean, like, if a man is really, 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 really good at sex with me, and I find him very enjoyable, I'm not going to think that that means that I have to marry him. What? Okay, that felt so weird to me to even think of marrying. But anyway, I mean, like, that's just weird to me. I mean, like, there needs to be an emotional connection, and maybe that's her problem, is that when she's with men, she's not emotionally connecting. And if you're not emotionally connecting, you're gonna run into some problems.
Low barometer and dim thinking.
Most men have listen, I don't know if men know this.
I think
I'm not done. I'm not done. Men need to hear this. Most of y'all, listen, what camera am I looking? Most of y'all have small most of y'all have small penises.
Yo, imagine a day that a man can scream from the mountaintops that I don't want no sloppy roast beef.
Yeah, I don't really get, like I said, with the whole size situation, that's just weird. You're making an assumption on women, saying we all like big penises just because your big vagina meets that. I mean, not all of us do. I mean, many of us are very small, and, 5 inches is actually very big for us. So, I mean, like, trying to assume all women have the same type of body is actually misogynistic, because you assumed all women were the same. So you were actually stereotyping women with that comment. And with him on the whole roast beef situation, I already said, why the transference on dark-skinned black women? Why attack dark-skinned black women? This isn't even a dark-skinned black woman. You could easily talk about the fact that she might be very loose, and that's why she's into very big penises, and she can't deal with anyone who is an normal average size, because she is probably not a normal average size for a woman down there.
Twisted labia minoras and for JJs. Imagine that. If he could talk freely about the smell, that's what you call the double standard woke bullshit in action.
You've seen porn. You know how big they get. They get pretty big. And once a woman figures that out, she ain't going back to 6 inches or 5 or 4. Some of them are like a cool inch. I was married to a man who had a cool 1.5 inches. I know because I measured it. Trust me. It's not good. We are fat.
That's just weird. Like, why would you just assume, though, that just because 4 inches doesn't please you, 5 inches doesn't please you, and 6 inches doesn't please you, don't you think something's wrong with you? Because most women are pleased by 6 inches. You aren't, most likely because you're different, you know. So trying to attack men for being normal because you're not normal is actually saying more about you. And I mean, this is a stereotype of promiscuous women. They always say that they're loose. And what are you proving? You're just proving them right, which isn't right.
Up.
I see.
We are tired of small penises.
But fair enough, though. Come over here and talk.
I'm not tired of small penises. I'm tired of big ones, honestly. There's a lot of big white men that always try to, like, date women like me. And it's really annoying when you run into men who are big and you can't do anything with them. Because I've never had sex with a man who was over 7 inches. You know, I find big men to, they can't really do anything with me. So I've never had sex with them. So, I mean, I'm really tired, honestly, of big penises. I'm not really tired of small ones. I love small ones, and I always will. You know, I don't speak for all women, and she definitely doesn't speak for all women. But studies have shown most women actually prefer 6 inches, or about the average size, for a man.
Shit about men with average to below average members. But here's the thing, on this side of the internet, we are warning these men about women just like you. Dear men, do not provide any financial commitment to women like this. Don't provide any resources and don't take care of their children. Instead, when you see them, run for the hills.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think she's looking for men like that, though, so.
I was raped at 13.
Oh.
I was kidnapped, held against my will for 3 days, and raped at 13.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And then that was my first sexual experience. It changed, and so my power was taken from me through sex. And that's a very powerful statement to a young girl. And I see this repeated in a lot of women in my life sexually and in a lot of our sexual lives, how much power we give up in our sexuality, how many women are thinking that their sexuality is their power.
Now, it's clear at this point that her background...
And this to me is a thing of what I was talking about in the beginning of promiscuity. I think, you know, this is a major reason why she's unhappy with being promiscuous. That's why she's raging on and upset at slut shaming, so to speak. But she doesn't realize she can just not do it if she doesn't like it. You know, she has the whole power of choosing what she does. But I think because of her past, she doesn't feel she has power because of the fact that she feels like her virginity was taken from her. She was powerless then, and she feels for every time she's with a man, she's basically powerless. And therefore, she is upset because she's stuck in a situation where she feels like she's stuck a whore. She's stuck promiscuous. When she should have realized, when she was 13, I mean, she didn't actually have sex, in my opinion. I mean, that's rape, you know, that she didn't consent to that. That doesn't count, you know. So they didn't take anything from her, you know, and that's not taking her, you know, that's not taking her choice to be with men in the future and things of that nature. So to me, I mean, like, I think that's where her whole problem is her past, you know? And I kind of feel like, you know, this kind of goes to show you an example of someone who is promiscuous but is mad that they are promiscuous, and they have issues with people so-called slut shaming them because they hate the connotation with it. But they don't realize they don't have to say yes. Continue.
Of her sexual assault history plays directly into the way that she conceptualizes all of the things that she's saying. And the thing is that when you've experienced trauma like that, if you haven't gone through substantial amounts of therapy to remove the bullshit, then you begin to create a narrative for yourself that makes sense to over-encumber the trauma. So what her mindset is doing is to say, at a point in my life, I was overpowered, so how do I make what I was overpowered for not matter anymore into the future? And these modern women today are looking at the logic path of what she communicates, not understanding, number one, the results that she's had in her life, but then number two, the traumas that she's had in her life as well, but they just pick up the things that
No, personally, to me, I just gather the anger and the discomfort she has with her own lifestyle, and I can see that she's not happy with what she's done in her life. You know, that's why she is upset with men who shame her. Otherwise, they wouldn't matter to her. So, to me, I see her problem, and I see why she's doing it now. You know, I don't really see it as a personal thing where I would take advice from her. I do relate to some of the things she says, but that's not based off of because she said it, just because I do think that men and women have value to each other. It's not like men just have value to women, you know, and we're just supposed to hold on to any man that is available to us, because you're thinking of it as in the 1800s and the 19th century and things of that nature, where women basically relied on men financially, and so then they just chose any man that gave them an option, basically, and were able to consider them, you know, for marriage and things of that nature. But that's not how it is today. So since it's not today, I mean, women look for what they want and men look for what they want. And what needs to be done in a functional relationship is both people find what they wanted and settle down together to have a very happy marriage. So that's all I have to say. Thanks for watching, everyone. Like and subscribe and comment down below. Bye.